Hello and happy Friday. We're heading into the second weekend of season 10, a phrase I never thought I'd say. But, 2021, what else can you do? I'm Jennifer, the festival's director of programming, and this is Caitlin, one of our co-founders.
We've changed a lot this year and are gathering in all new ways, but even with that, we can't wait to have you all back with us in Austin in 2022. In the meantime, we are proud to host the same level of conversations that we have for the past 10 years. As many of you know, we like to balance fan and industry conversations. And though most of the time, there's a lot of crossover between those two, which is why panels like this one are some of our favorites.
While we've hosted panels on buying and selling TV series in the past, today's panel, Buying and Selling with 2020 Hindsight, is unlike any before, much like how 2020 itself stands alone as a year that shifted the industry and marketplace across the board.
It has been wild, to say the least. I'm excited to hear what has stayed the same, what was a value, and what was a struggle. But I'm also excited that you'll see some familiar faces. We have advisory board members Kathleen McCaffrey and Brian Seabury, who have helped bring this panel as well as many previous executive conversations to light. They are our MVPs, and we thank them immensely for helping always.
With that, we're going to go ahead and bring out our moderator, Daniel Feinberg of The Hollywood Reporter. Hey, Dan.
Hey, y'all. It is always great to be at ATX TV Festival, even if we are not all together. I miss the brisket, but I am glad that the conversations will continue. As Caitlin and Jed said, I'm Dan Feinberg, Chief Television Critic for The Hollywood Reporter, and you are here for Buying and Selling with 2020 Hindsight, where we are going to cover basically everything that has happened in the television industry over the past 15 months in 45 minutes. So fortunately, we have a tremendous panel of experts and executives, starting with Brian Seabury, who is the Executive Vice President of Drama Development for Broadcasting and Cable at CBS Studios. Hey, Brian. We have Kathleen McCaffrey, Senior Vice President of Programming for HBO. We have Ali Krug, Senior Vice President for Television at Annapurna TV. And we have Amanda Burrell, President of Team Downey.
Oh.
Welcome, all of you.
Hello.
And unmute yourselves if you're currently muted. So we are recording this coming out of what is typically one of the biggest weeks of the television year. And so I want to start with Brian. This has just been Upfronts week, and last year, basically, it kind of didn't happen at all. This year, it happened somewhat. It was a virtual process. Certain parts of the equation were there, certain parts were not. I'm curious from your perspective, coming out of this huge week in the schedule, what percentage of normal would you say we are back to?
I don't know how to put, that's a great way to put it, although I don't know how to answer it in terms of percentages. If broadcast who is going to present their schedules, to the advertisers and show it, and they're going to launch in the fall, they're presenting that, they're presenting them up front, that felt pretty normal. When I was waiting to find out what all the broadcast schedules would be, I was especially awaiting what CBS's would be. We'll find out CW's soon enough. That felt like it always feels. I have nervous producers. I'm nervous on their behalves. They're nervous on their own behalves of if their pilot is going to get picked up. It necessarily coming out of the pandemic, we had several shows that were ordered straight to series, which, hadn't been done probably as much in the past on broadcast. So not as many pilots shot, not as many pilots waiting to know if they're picked up or not, but a handful were pretty much in the same situation that you're in every May if you are producing a broadcast pilot, or for me at a studio with pilots in the mix.
Now, you mentioned, Brian, that there was more that there were more straight to series orders this time around, but there were still pilots. And this is always the time of year where everyone brings up Kevin Riley's famous 2014 declaration that pilot season was dead. And he was wrong at the time, but it begins to feel with each passing year like it's getting closer and closer to, if not being dead, to being a very, very different creature for what it was for so many years. Where do you think we stand on that, and what have the past 15 months done to either push pilot season towards death or to maybe affirm to some degree why it's important?
I read Leslie's piece and I saw you retweet it. The jury is still out on that for me. As kind of boots on the ground for needing to sell shows, when do you sell them? They aren't written yet. Then they need to be written. And if you are going to still shoot a pilot, if you're committed to shooting the pilot, that has to happen at a certain time. And I'll say if you are dealing within a certain genre, let's say that you are a broadcast network and you say, I really want a medical show this year, for instance. To me, that tends to put me into a schedule of reading my medical pilot scripts and choosing the one I want to shoot as a pilot, or maybe even shooting the two I want to shoot as a pilot. And the one that I like the most gets ordered to series. And that kind of puts me back into that kind of a calendar. Now, if I have something that just feels in and of itself, if this script comes in as good as it can be, I'm not really judging it against others. Just, I love this idea. If it's great, then absolutely. I think broadcast networks can, if they get that script at an off-cycle time, then they can shoot that as a pilot or shoot it straight to series. I think that is probably more in their bag of tricks now than ever before. But in the kind of pilots as R&D, I think that you probably want to shoot those, if not at the same time, at least at a time where you can kind of have them all, look at them all together and make your decisions as to what's gonna go forward to series.
So, okay, Kathleen, from your perspective, HBO does still do pilots, and that's another thing where, because when Netflix broke into the suddenly we're ordering everything straight to series model, it became a conversation of, are pilots in general for everybody going to vanish? And most people, other than Netflix, still have resolutely continued to do pilots. Have you had to change, really in the past 15 months, the volume or approach that you have to those? Are you getting closer to reducing your own version of pilot season?
I don't think we have a hard and fast rule about it. In the last 15 months, we haven't really shot anything, which has been, incredibly frustrating, because one of the things, at HBO that, our development team is both current and development. So we have all these scripts that we've been working on that obviously we're not able to move forward as a result of the pandemic. But in terms of the piloting of something, I think we're very open. It really would depend on the piece. A lot of times, there are many different ways to skin the cat. I personally really love a pilot process. I think there's a lot to learn from the cast and the director, and there's so much to learn in that, going through the whole process of the first episode. But there are reasons to just jump into a series order right away, whether it be there's one director with a vision for the whole season. If we're going to do if we're going to pick something up for a whole season, we almost always require all the scripts to be written first, because that way, so you have a roadmap for the series, you know what you're getting. But I think that it really is show dependent. I think for something like a huge sci-fi show, you probably do, whether financially advantageous or not, shoot a pilot just because you're going to want to see it. It's going to be a huge investment. Whereas, some of the smaller stuff that we do, we might be willing to take a bigger risk by just going forward. I think for us, it's always kind of case specific.
Well, Ali and Amanda, from your perspectives as the sellers in this process, do the number of people who seem to be reducing the amount of pilots that they're ordering, does that impact either who you're going out to, or how you look at whether the R&D, as Brian puts it, is important for what you guys do in the same way?
Go ahead, Ali, you go first.
I would say it's sort of similar to what Kathleen said. I am also a fan of pilots. I'm in Albuquerque right now shooting a pilot. I think you learn a lot from the process. The other thing that I think can be really useful is to get a series order, shoot a pilot. And I know you guys did this at HBO, Kathleen, a couple times, where you shoot a pilot or you shoot the first episode and you go down for 6 weeks. You're able to evaluate that costs money and time, but you're able to evaluate the product and make adjustments for series. I don't think we shot a pilot earlier this year in February as well. I don't think I don't think it changes where we sell a show. I think obviously if we're able to get a straight to series, like we'll take that if it's the right home and it's the right chemistry, but I think there's value in the pilot process. So I don't think it changes. I think it's just case by case, like Kathleen said, personally.
I think for our company, we prefer straight to series. Just gonna be very honest. But I have to say, like, we have this big show, Sweet Tooth, that we did for Netflix. And we originally did a pilot for Hulu. And it was about a boy with antlers. You know, it's weird. The tone was very specific. And so actually the pilot was, while you end up spending a lot of time building it, which, you know, can be very frustrating if it doesn't go to series, it was super helpful. That said, you know, with Perry Mason for HBO, like we had to crossboard a lot of it to make 1930s LA come to life. So we couldn't have ever piloted that. It would have been really tricky. So, and I do think, you know, what's sometimes developing pilots can be challenging as well, because it's a lot of these days, I feel like the audience wants to use the pilot to settle in. And if that's your only example, then the settling in, you know, it can be a little bit not entirely it doesn't entirely demonstrate what the series is. So we spend a lot of time talking about it. It is case by case. Every show is different. But that's kind of how we think of it.
Well, Amanda, in the case of Perry Mason in particular,
Yeah,
I would say almost the first season is almost the pilot for that show.
honestly.
Well, is that a hard thing to pitch? Is that a hard thing to convince people that really and truly they're going to need a 10-hour movie in order to get it settled into what the show is?
You know, it's interesting. The IP helped, I think, but also in some ways reinforced that we had to introduce the character that we created in season 1. He was a totally different guy. And a lot of it was, you know, we knew that we couldn't do the procedural expectation of a guy who just always got the person to confess on the stand. So we really felt what we loved is living in 1930s LA and world building in that way and really settling them into our world. So that wasn't a challenge, but you know, the challenge was having one case over the course of a season and really doing that while introducing all these other characters. But yeah, there's no way that show could have piloted. The first episode, we don't even meet Tatiana. You know, you don't meet Chris Chalk, who are so vital in our series. We really always thought of kind of the first two as the beginning. But yeah, so I don't know if that helps.
Kathleen, would you ever do something like that, a show that had that kind of development / build without the IP, without knowing that you were getting people in on Perry Mason as a brand?
I think we would. I'm trying to think if there's an example when we have. I think so. Again, it's like, you know, one of the things about that Perry Mason had is it's not only the IP, but also just an incredible team behind it and sort of tried and true producers and writers that we had worked with for a long time. And also Tim Van Patten, who's been, you know, forever a member of our family. And so, you know, yes, we all love having IP. I think it's like there's a security in having, you know, sort of it already written where, you know, ideas already on a page somewhere. But I think for us, you know, it comes down to a vision and a voice and sort of a trusted relationship. So I think, yeah, we would do something without IP, but it is nice to have a built-in audience. My parents were thrilled about this pickup. So, you know, it's like nice to do something for them too.
Now, I want to back up a little bit. For all of you guys in your professional lives at this moment, I asked Brian to sort of quantify normal. Where are you guys standing in terms of normal? Are you going into offices at this point? Are you having in-person meetings yet, or are you still living a virtual quarantine existence?
I'm virtual. We're still virtual. We've done one staff meeting in person, and it was kind of hilarious. I think we gathered at someone's house and we've all forgotten how to talk to each other, and it was very clunky. But it was also good to see my colleagues. But no, we're still doing everything, pitches, generals, everything is virtual.
Same here. Everything virtual.
Yeah, us too. And we're going to open a production office soon and on a couple of shows, but other than that, like all of our Team Downey business is virtual.
I am interested in what a pitch 6 months from now looks like. Is it we determine, is this a virtual pitch or an in-person pitch? Could that
We
just
were
be
talking
based?
about that. What's going to happen?
I don't know. And from a seller's standpoint,
Yeah.
Kathleen just gets to sit back in her office and have us all come to her. But from a seller's standpoint, where I'm driving all over town, I can frankly fit more into a day now if several of them are virtual. And so I don't know if it just opens up more kind of opportunity and or kind of choice within my calendar and what a given day or week looks like, that could be a win.
I agree. Like that's one thing we talk about is like the whole water bottle, the little water bottles and the valet ticket and the, the whole thing, that dance that you end up doing that takes up hours of your day. I think there's more efficiency to this. And also similar to Ali, I spent 6 months in New Zealand and I also pitched a show and like you can actually do a lot more than like kind of be the one person on Skype. You know what I mean? Like, so it is going to be also about like, what is the most efficient? So we should just convince Kat to embrace the Zoom.
Listen, I'm so down. Here's the thing I would say, because I feel like this is the exhaustion comes from like the fact that I keep staring at myself on a pitch, you know what I mean? Because you try to like, obviously, how hard it is for the writer and you want to be emotive and responsive, but it's like, then I'm like, oh God, oh no. So there was one pitch where the writer, God love him, he was like, okay, executives, like turn your cameras off. And then he let us pitch with our cameras off. And then we came back on for it and we bought it. Because I was like, I could feel like I could be more engaged and I was distracted by like my lines.
That's a helpful tip.
Yeah,
it was great. So I'd be so down as long as I can turn my camera off.
We got a helpful tip just for your own psyche to turn self-view off, because you don't go through life looking at yourself. If you're in a meeting or all life, you're always looking at others. And invariably, if your camera's on, your eye is kind of drawn to your own face. And that is like not healthy.
Horrible.
Certainly not with this.
But like, I don't think I'm going to turn off self-view.
Really?
I'm just going to be honest. Like, I think I would be too stressed now that we've done, if someone said like the etiquette is turn off self-view, like March 18th of last year, I would have been like, great. But the fact that we've gone like whole year and a half of us like stare, like, what's the angle? Like, it's like, it's,
but
I don't
nobody's gonna know, but nobody knows that your self-view is turned off.
No, but we know.
Camera's on.
I agree. I'd be like, how do I look right now? How do I look right now?
You guys are missing out. You got to turn off this self-view.
Brian, are you saying you don't have self-view on right now, Brian?
I just have 4 squares up.
Oh. No way. I know.
Yeah.
Brave.
A little skeptical, but okay. If you
look great, Brian.
Yeah, you actually look great.
Am I in the middle of the frame? Am I off camera?
I think there's something though, like missing though about these Zoom meetings and these Zoom pitches. I don't think we'll ever fly someone out from London to pitch anymore. Like that just doesn't feel realistic, but that's something that we would budget for and spend money on. But I think there's, you sort of miss, the camaraderie of like, let's do a dinner after our final pitch. Let's huddle in the valet after the pitch, as opposed to like, should we get back on Zoom? Like, I know that's obviously connection is something that is not just a entertainment industry, thing that we've all been missing over the course of the last year and a half. But I do wonder if we are going back to back to back and we are being so efficient. And I think all of us are probably busier than ever. And there's not a break for lunch. There's not a break, for breakfast. There's not a break from meeting to meeting. And like, is that sustainable? And how does that work long-term? I know I've just been thinking a lot about that and thinking a lot about it for my team and the work-life balance of it all. And so we'll see how it plays out.
The 1 p.m. lunch break is a real thing. Like that, we tried to reinstate it, but it all blends together. But it was really something that was a nice moment, because even if you didn't have an actual lunch, you got to read a script or just take a beat and like just collect your thoughts. And that, I feel that's been really, what happened? How did we all decide we weren't going to do it anymore? It's so weird.
Not to mention everybody has my cell phone number.
Everyone text
Everyone, I know.
I know.
I know.
And it's efficient. Like it's like you said,
It
like super efficient. I'm texting network executives and writers all day long and agents. Like, but and it's great. It's efficient, but it's also there. I think there have not been as many boundaries this last year and a half. Not that
Well,
there's
there are no boundaries.
yeah,
No.
right. It's not that there's ever boundaries, but like, and it's a good thing because there's connection, a deeper connection, actually, weirdly, I think, if you're talking in real time, but it's also, yeah.
I do think the concern about your team though is vital there. It's not just the work-life balance, but I feel like I like my assistants out of the loop more. You know what I mean? And I worry a little bit about, learning, like mentoring. Like my assistant was on every call. They were like in the office with me when I was having a bad day. Like if I go to have a bad day now, I kind of ghost a little bit, you know what I mean? And I mean, but you know what I mean? It's like not like, so I do wonder what the impact will be on the younger generation who we all benefited from such informality of like, oh, you're actually in, that it just feels like that might be the missing piece here that we have to rectify.
Now, something Ali mentioned that I think is interesting and something that kind of fascinates me about this whole prospect is, okay, so you're not flying someone in from London, and that's a change in the process. But sort of the positive would be is that someone, say a writer in Kansas who might never under any other circumstance have had the opportunity to meet with the head of someone at Annapurna, et cetera, would suddenly have that opportunity because they just need to get on Skype. Have you guys felt that that's been something that you've been able to do, is get different people into the room now that the room is virtual?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Amanda.
I was just going to say, I can't think of a specific, but in terms of staffing rooms, I've found that writers, especially playwrights in New York, who ordinarily it feels like a massive leap to become, to go from being a playwright in New York to opening a life in LA and having to make that transition. We've had great success. Like we've had way more, I think, diverse and exciting voices that are in the rooms. I can't speak to it in pitch form just yet. But I can't imagine that. I know all of my writer friends are talking about the flexibility of where they are in the world and not having to make that commitment to living in Los Angeles. I can't imagine there wouldn't be that opportunity. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I can't give a specific example either, but there's certainly no reason why that couldn't happen. And the other thing, just to add on to what Amanda was saying, we have a writer, the opportunity becomes so much greater. We have actually, I can think of 2 examples of writers we have deals with who were able to do multiple rooms at once. So there was they were up at 6 a.m. to do a room in London, then they did a room on the East Coast, then a room on the West Coast in the afternoon. So there's just more, there's more opportunity just because you don't have to you don't have to move anywhere and set up your whole life. You can just you can literally do 3 rooms at one time all over the world. And the rooms, I think, obviously I'm making this sound like that's a long day, but also the rooms are much shorter because people saying with the burnout. So I feel like there's a lot of unexpected opportunity that came from this in a way that I was like, I guess she can do 6 a.m. here and then 9 a.m. and then 12. And she's like, I'm down. We can do it. Like, I just won't go for a run in the morning. And you're like, okay, great. So that, but to your question, there's no reason I think anything's kind of possible, and we're learning it as we go.
I do know of a couple of instances where casting found somebody on TikTok and they thought they were fascinating or following them, and they put together a meeting of comedy, drama, that person, within a day or two, we were all on a Zoom talking to this person about their life, which you're right. They were all over they were not in LA in either of the instances that I'm thinking of. And it happened quickly. And they were able to meet with that team as if they were in LA, or meet in the same way that you would if you were in LA, because we were all meeting virtually. So that it didn't feel any different than any other meeting.
That's a great point that Brian brings up about casting just in general and how casting has changed in, this entire situation. Obviously, if you're casting A-list star X or Y, it makes less difference whether or not you have a rapport with them, whether you're seeing how they project in person, any of that stuff. But if you're casting almost anything in which it's, a young actor or an unknown actor, how different is it doing it on this format, and how has that changed this process from your perspectives?
We've done a lot of casting, over Zoom. It's interesting. I think I know a lot of show creators that we're working with will do the audition, and then we'll see the audition, but also ask to include like, things about themselves to just really try to get to know the person and connect with the person even before there's a chemistry read or the director works with someone over Zoom. The other thing we're doing, table reads are like very odd over Zoom, and we've been doing pre-table reads, and like, just, I don't know, Amanda or Brian, if you're doing that at all, but like we do like test runs, which is also kind of like a weird new thing over Zoom, just to make sure everybody like can sync up correctly, the logistics work. So that's a whole new thing, I think, during this time.
I spoke to an actress over the weekend who's quite accomplished, and she was just telling me how difficult self-taping herself at home during COVID has been. She has 4 dogs. She has a professional husband who can't go to the office. And she's trying to find time, or she needs to work with a director. I mean, and this is nerve-wracking. This is her job. She's trying to put her best performance out there, and it sounded incredibly difficult to not be able to go in to a casting director's office or just have that safety. And because casting's been going on, for the past, whatever it is, seven months that we've been able to get back into it. It's been really hard from her side.
And we just heard from the casting directors, they're so bummed out. Like, they love doing that. They love being in the room with the actors and directing them and all of that stuff. So, but I think the international, the business has gone so international now too, that actually there's opportunity in that, that they would self-tape anyway on Zoom. But I do think that energy is missing for a lot of actors who love that process.
Now, I want to go back to when, say, in April and May, there was kind of the tentative return to production. What do you guys remember about sort of the instinct to get back into production on things simply to get people employed again, to be sort of the responsible employer in this industry, and sort of what your feelings were when it was things like the quarantine episodes that several CBS shows did, or something like Coastal Elites? What was the thought process in your mind of not knowing when anything was ever going to be able to return, even to the sort of protocol version that it was later, but still needing to get people paychecks, basically?
Producers?
I was just going to say, like, let's remember that in March of last year, everybody was like, oh, it'll be fine by May. And then they were like, oh, it'll be fine by summer. So it kind of really evolved. I mean, we, as producers, I feel like you're never taking your foot off the gas and there's a panic about it. But for us, it was always like, okay, how do we just keep it till the next thing? We were fortunate enough to have a show that was in New Zealand, and started prep in July. And we kind of couldn't believe that was like they didn't have COVID really there, and our luck in that. So it was all kind of a learning curve, but it was, thinking back, like, the weird thing is, I don't think we thought it would last as long as it was going to. So we just kind of kept deluding ourselves and just keeping going, as much as we could. I don't know if you guys had that experience as well.
Yeah, we had one show that was in post-production, had wrapped in February of 2020. And so we got kind of lucky and we were posting remotely, and that had its own kind of set of things to work out and work through, but then we did. And then we pushed some production to this year. And then we honestly just ended up focused on selling and sold, I think, 12 things from the course of like April to October. And then everything kind of, I think, well, Kathleen, you can speak to this, but I think there was a buying frenzy a little bit, or we had a lot more luck. And then kind of come October, it was like, everybody was like, we got to put put a pause. We have to focus on production. We have to get the things through that's in the pipeline to get starting to prep. So we weren't pushing for production to start. We were more focused on development, and we're just monitoring how things were going and trying to set dates that felt realistic and doable and safe for 2021.
The great bottleneck of end of 2020 up till now in 2021 for us sellers and for
buyers,
and for buyers trying to get their projects onto the air is very real and continues.
And what have you guys learned about the sticker shock of COVID protocol production and how it's changed everything? Because I've definitely heard the stories of both the longer shooting process on episodes and whatnot, but also just the amount of extra money to test everyone as much as you have. How did you respond initially when you saw what that was looking like? And how has that shifted in the 7 or 8 or 9 months since it's become a little bit more normal?
For us, you can't put a price on safety. Like, we first and foremost, everybody has to be safe and healthy. And that was always a priority. And so what can you do? You can't control the pandemic. So it was like, we got to do what we got to do.
She's right. There's only 2 options. There's either don't shoot the shows or do them as safely as possible. And as safely as possible comes with a big price tag. And at a time when I think companies are as challenged as ever financially, it is incredibly difficult. And yet getting product out there and making these shows, it seems like every company across the board has decided they're going to do it. And they will figure out what that means financially. But it was determined to keep moving forward and to not just kind of shut down and wait until you can shoot them at the same price that they used to be shot.
I mean, I would just say, like, people took it really seriously from jump. And while it's extensive, I mean, and you just don't realize how it touches every facet. It's like the quarantine period of 2 weeks of putting people up in a hotel room, of having like every facet, and then getting on set and stuff. But I have to say, like, the networks and the studios were really supportive and kind of absorbed a lot of it, and didn't, at least for us, like on our shows, it was like, we're like, holy, but at the same time, I think that the spirit was like, let's just keep everybody safe. So it didn't feel like ugly, like we were bartering with someone who was not clear on the stakes.
And obviously we tried to find workarounds. Like for us, we 2 shows that we're about to premiere, obviously we still had to keep a schedule, right? We still have, like subscribers that need shows. And so In Treatment and White Lotus are 2 upcoming shows that were born out of COVID. It was like, okay, In Treatment is such a beautiful format for this. It's 2 people sitting 6 feet apart. And White Lotus, they took over a hotel that otherwise wasn't getting business in Hawaii, so you find the ways around it. But but there's the sticker shock of it, but they're also sort of like more contained. They're good, and still, as long as the writing's good, you can find a good show even when you're not in a big sort of ensemble sci-fi piece. You can find good entertainment, and so that was actually fun. Although we're, to our earlier point about being in a room together, I was the executive on Treatment, and we conceived it. It was pitched, written, shot, and wrapped, and now premiering this weekend without me ever meeting and never having a dinner with the showrunners, never meeting the actors. Like, they were sending me videos of like everyone's last day, and it's such a different world. And to Ali's point, like, somebody just want to go celebrate. And like, I also was the executive on almost all the shows that premiered in 2020, and like the things like, we didn't have our premiere parties. Like, there's no moment to celebrate the work. Amanda, we were supposed to have like a huge fancy premiere party that just got shut down. And so those, anyway, this was just going back to an earlier point of like the difference in the sort of the familial nature of making television. It's been really hard like this.
Well, but with something like an In Treatment, obviously ease is going to be something that's going to be high on the list of assets it has. How much are you guys looking at things when they come in the door? And is that being sort of one of the top 2 or 3 things that's on your agenda? Can we make this? Is there a thing that's obviously going to make this unmakeable under some circumstance? And how does that change just how you look at a script when it lands in front of you?
I think that's what when Ali was referring to the sort of the frenzy that happened of selling. It was sort of like, we were all like, what can we make now? What can we do? Are there formats we should be getting, or what can we get on our air? Now it feels a little more normal. Like, I feel like now that we're coming out of it, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're evaluating material in the way we used to. Like, let's get a great script, and we can go about it in an almost normal way. So I feel like we've come back around. I hope, knock on wood.
But there aren't genres that feel like you simply can't do them at this moment, or a script on the first page that has a nightclub scene with 200 people. You just go, okay, well, that's not a thing we can do at this point, or are we moving past that?
I think we're moving past it, but I'll say my 2 examples on both shows I work on too. Sorry, I'm talking so much, but I'll make it quick. The 2 Euphoria standalone episodes that we did, we were supposed to start shooting regularly Euphoria, but they're, to your point, huge crowd scenes and people close together, and so that was our answer to that. We wanted to keep the momentum and keep it going, keep something on the air for everybody, like keep these characters on the air, but we did it siloed, and now we're back shooting the regular season. And same thing for the Nevers. We shut down mid-season, and we just are now on hiatus between, we broke it into 2 parts, because a show like that, which is big crowds, big stunts, stuff like that, we just wanted to wait till everyone was safe and sort of on the other side of it. So
I'm happy that things are sort of feeling like going back to normal. I think we got pitched so many kind of COVID, post-apocalyptic, funny enough, I went back to my office to pick something up, and on a whiteboard we have like areas, arenas, and one of the things on it was like pandemic as something like an international global like thriller, like like set in a pandemic, like obviously erasing that, but I think like one of the things that we're still just looking for, and I'm happy that things feel like they're getting back to normal, is just great stories, great voices, strong visions, and thinking about subverting a genre in a different, unexpected way. I think for me personally and for Annapurna, we're looking for things that feel hopeful and feel and there's like a protagonist that is like a survivor of some kind, not like apocalyptic or a pandemic, but like that has like a grit and a strength. Like, I think we're all kind of responding to this sort of heroes in our world and in our country that have sort of prevailed and persevered. And so, but I also want to see, like, I want to go to Greece. I want to go to like an island. I want escapist. I want fun. I want smart. And I want the show to like say something, but I think things should feel entertaining right now. I think we all need that.
Are there genres that feel like they're dead? There were a lot of people who during the last presidential administration said that they simply had no interest in hearing political pitches anymore because they got too much of their politics in the real world. So you were just talking about that, Ali. Does it feel like there are genres that right now none of you guys want any part of for 12 months?
You feel, if everybody's been inside for over a year, the idea of television as escape and a triptych and whatever it can be, and that kind of escapism is well, I'm going to be focused there. And again, to echo Ali, escapist doesn't mean surfacey, or like it can be as complicated and incredible as storytelling is out there. But I do think, really transporting people feels like the way to go to me.
Yeah, I think we just don't want to perpetuate anxiety within our audience, we're already feeling enough. And certainly it's like, hope and, we just need to all hear that. We all need to hear we're going to be okay. We don't want a lot of bleakness. We, as a company, Team Downey's never been really trafficked in either bleak or political, but I think it's also, we don't want to be preachy, we don't want to be kind of high horse about it. I think we just want to get inside characters and be aspirational and hopeful. And complex, there should be just some darkness and drama, but yeah, I would just underline everything that everybody said, for sure.
And this is sort of, we talked so much about COVID. I feel like I want to at least talk briefly about something that was going to happen in the industry, regardless of whether or not any of this stuff happened. And this has sort of just been looking at the past few weeks and the past few months about the blurring lines between linear and streaming. And this is obviously such a big issue that it could be another 45 minutes, but I still just at least want to touch on it. When you have something like in the past week, we've had Clarice and SEAL Team and Evil that have just simply gone from CBS to Paramount Plus, and that's kind of the advantage of vertical integration. Or something like Industry premieres on HBO, and then, you know, the episodes all come on HBO Max a few weeks later. Do you feel as if this is a blur that has been to some degree precipitated by the changes of the past few months? Was it coming anyway? Do the lines still even exist in your mind? And will they exist in 5 years? Like, are we going to a point where it's just going to be these big behemoths and things kind of float freely between all of them? Probably Kathleen and Brian are the first thoughts on that one.
I mean, I don't mean to punt. I think about it more in terms of, as a development executive, how does it affect the way that I'm thinking about designing my shows? And I have to say, it hasn't changed a lot. You know, I'm still just trying to find writers with incredible voices with something to say, and do it in a way that we're gonna go pitch a show that I want to watch, and hopefully a buyer embraces it. And that can, you know, within my kind of ecosystem, that's pretty similar when I'm thinking about, you know, CBS or CW or Showtime or Paramount Plus. Like, they each have their own lanes and creative lanes, but I don't think it doesn't change whether it's going to be kind of direct to consumer or on ad driven or something. It doesn't really change a lot about how you go about the job of developing the show.
Kathleen?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Our assignment has not changed, truly. And you know, I still work to program the linear HBO, and there's a separate programming team for HBO Max. But this said, this sort of, you know, this landscape has given us more. I've been at HBO a long time. We used to program, you know, like 8 shows a year total or something. It was Sunday night, 9 p.m. That was it. And now we're doing 4 times that. And so the opportunity to make stuff is greater. And to Brian's point, like, we are still like, find the best storytellers, maintain the brand, but do what you do it more, but just continue to do what you do. So that's been the mandate. It hasn't changed. It's not changing. It's, you know, we've sort of eye on the prize and, you know, still reading scripts, doing all the same things we always did. We're just doing more of it.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It's nice to see things get made.
But Ali and Amanda, does it make it harder to pitch from your perspective if there's this much flexibility, or does it become easier if you know you can just go to someone at Warner Brothers and it'll find the right home eventually? Or do you prefer to target, I want this to be on HBO Max show, an HBO show, a Paramount Plus show, a CW show?
We can partner with other studios like a Warner Brothers or a Sony, or you know, but we often generate our own material and then pitch it to the outlets ourselves. So we don't decide. We're pretty flexible and nimble, and I think that's sometimes the power of an independent studio. It's also the challenge of an independent studio when we're not vertically integrated. But I think it just depends on, you know, how the pitches go, you know, what's the right home for it. Are people passionate? Do they see the show in the same way? Are they aligned with our creator's vision? And then we sort of decide that way, I would say.
Yeah, for us, we have a deal at HBO. So, you know, we always would love to work with them. But I do think, and then it's always about the passion of the executive across the Zoom table. It's always about the person who's honestly just gets it. And because you just know that that's gonna, and then you can design it, you know, whether it's for binge or whether, like, you can kind of have those conversations, and the networks are so open to those conversations as early as possible anyway. So I feel like it's actually not that different than it was.
And just as a last question to kind of wrap things up, and it's sort of a bunch of stuff we've been circling around, but one thing from the before times about the way the industry worked that you really miss and can't wait to go back to, and one thing about the way the industry worked before times that you just never want to return to.
Well, I do think that all of those little plastic bottles of water are very problematic on a number of levels. So let's never go back to that.
Who else has one?
Dan, please, somebody else.
I think I'll repeat myself and just say, like, I really can't wait for a general meeting just to meet a writer and maybe, God forbid, like have a martini with somebody and just like talk about ideas and share creativity. This said, literally as I'm making this point, I'm like having anxiety about having a meal with people. So I just don't know, like a sober lunch with somebody. I eat alone in my kitchen. I don't know how I'm gonna ever do it again. So we'll see.
I really am looking forward to being on set without a mask. My skin is really looking forward to that. But also, honestly, it's weird when you don't see your crew's face, you know, from this point on. So there's a lot of connections that I'm looking forward to.
Being in the office, it's a creative endeavor. You know, I'm at a studio with teams, you know, cable team and broadcast team, a lot of people, and the kind of ideas, maybe it's the idea on that script, or maybe it's a show idea, whatever it is, that tends to not come from the meeting where you said, let's sit down and talk about the idea. You know, it tends to come when you're talking about other things and you're talking about your life or whatever. Great ideas can come from that, and people are spitballing. And I think our days are so scheduled that there's not as much time for that. And that's where I think some great creativity comes from in our business. So I miss that and look forward to getting back to it.
Okay, thank you all so much for watching at home. And thank you, Ali, Amanda, Kathleen, and Brian for the great conversation.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys.